It's Monday, the first business day of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot to talk about on today's episode of the Business Hour. My name is Frank Fagbo. I'm going on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about the issues bedeviling the Nigerian business landscape. Don't go anywhere because this is the Business Hour.
When your morning starts, make sure to look around for the right company to serve you everything you need to know about what's happening around you. That's why you need VOP this morning, because we will climb this far to give you a voice in what's going on, from news, reviews, politics and the economy, sports, and even entertainment. Join us weekdays, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. right here on VOP TV. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Imagine a brighter future for Nigeria where power shortage is a thing of the past. The vision is becoming a reality because what is really happening right now is that the government has finalized a monumental $1.1 billion deal to be able to sell 5 key power plants in this country. The power plants are spread across from Kogi State down to Ondo State. We have a power plant in Ondo State. We also have one in Ogun State, Cross River State, and Edo State. They promise to bring efficiency and also much needed energy to the nation, setting the stage for economic growth and stability. So there are a lot of finalization regarding the $1.15 billion deal to be able to sell 5 power plants. And remember, we've been talking about this in the Nigerian business landscape. We've been talking about we having foreign investment into different sectors, and the power sector is one of those, because if we can get that $1.1 billion deal is a bit tangible for us to kickstart. And this is really about selling 5 key power plants in this country, and it looks like we're going full throttle as regards privatizing the power sector. Once we get that done, definitely it's going to be an amazing phenomenon in the Nigerian business landscape. Also, the Minister of Power, Adelabu Adebayo, highlighted the National Council of Privatization role, the role of that particular council. And the plants are in Kogi, Ondo, Ogun, Cross River, and Edo State. Is expected to generate significant revenue and improve the sector efficiency. It follows an agreement between the federal government and state government. There are a lot of critical steps towards addressing the power shortage and fostering economic growth. But a lot of Nigerians have been talking about the fact that, yes, we can have foreign direct investment into this sector, but then how are we going to make sure that whatever is said is going to be done is what is going to be what is going to be done? And what do we mean by that? Holding the minister accountable for every word he makes, every statement he makes. And this is, if you ask me, it's a welcome development, but beyond that, we need to make sure, Nigerians want to make sure, okay, they have consistent power supply. That is the end goal. How you're going to go about getting that particular goal is your problem. You came in as a minister and you promised Nigerians that we're going to see improvement. But it looks like a lot of Nigerians are not seeing the improvement. What they're just getting is extra hike. And remember, last week we saw on the floor of the Senate when Senator Ali Ndume actually made a very, very solid, massive statement. He said that he sees no reason why there should be discrimination against Nigerians regarding power. It is against the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And so you're saying one particular set, ban A, another set, ban B. That is discrimination. And so no Nigerian is more Nigerian than another Nigerian. We are all Nigerians. We are all Nigerians. And that is why we saw the backlash coming from that senator telling the Minister of Power that there is no reason why we should have, segregation in the power sector or amongst Nigerians, discrimination. You're calling one particular band, one set of Nigerians better than another set of Nigerians. That particular set is who you're going to be giving 20 hours power supply, and another set is going to be getting lower than that. There is no reason why we should be having that if we call ourselves one nation. And that is what the senator talked about. But let's see what his outcome is going to be regarding this investment. Perhaps it's going to be a turnaround for the power sector. A lot of Nigerians have their fingers crossed and hoping that there's going to be a positive outcome from this particular investment coming in that sector. Moving on to some other stories, but it's still in the power sector. State governors have proposed a complete phase out of electricity subsidy across Nigeria. They're saying that they see no reason why we should be subsidizing electricity as a nation. But a lot of Nigerians are saying that this is really insensitive for the state governors to come out to make this statement because their lifestyle are being subsidized by the government. The state governors' lifestyles are being subsidized by the government. Take a look at a report we had last week. The amount state governors spent on just thank God it's Friday, on chilling, on lounging, on extra codes. Almost ₦1 trillion in just 3 months, the first quarter of 2024. So imagine that, the kind of lavish lifestyle they live. And right now, that's why a lot of Nigerians are saying that it is insensitive for the governors to say that the federal government for the governors to propose complete phase out of electricity subsidy. Visualize a more sustainable power sector where resources are efficiently utilized. Nigeria state governors are pushing for the phase out of electricity subsidies, arguing that these have only benefited a small fraction of the population while draining national resources. Their goal is to implement a fair, cost-effective, and cost-reflective tariff system that ensures everyone gets reliable power supply. The recommendation by 36 state governors to be able to phase out electricity subsidies. There's a lot of reports by the report by National Nigeria Governors Forum highlights subsidy inefficiencies over 15 years. The subsidies benefit a small fraction of the grid connected customers. They're proposing cost-reflective tariff system where each state is going to determine the tariff based on local conditions. The federal government's reduction of subsidies is going to save approximately 1.14 trillion naira. But if you look at that, juxtapose it alongside how much was spent on travels, how much was spent on perhaps on frivolities. I love to call it that frivolities, because how almost ₦1 trillion was spent on travels for just 30 state governors. Out of the 36 state governors we have in this country, 946 million naira was spent in just the first quarter of 2024. We don't know about the second quarter, as a matter of fact. We don't know about the second quarter. And right now, we're about to enter the third quarter. So imagine how much has been spent in just 2024 alone. If the first quarter is having 949 million naira being spent on their travels, apart from their travels, also being spent on refreshments. Imagine that. So it is, and right now they're saying that the state governors are saying that the federal government should put an end to electricity subsidy, because the electricity subsidy is going to, if the subsidy is reduced, we're going to save approximately 1.1 trillion naira, meaning we're saving approximately what the governors are even spending on refreshments. So we don't have a revenue problem in this country. And the best of my knowledge, we don't. As a people, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And if we can fix our spending problem, it's more or less like you put a basket under the tap. What do you expect? You're not going to retain any water. You're not going to retain water. Because it's a basket. There are so many loopholes. And so because of the loopholes we have among the political class, the expenditure, we spend so much on frivolities to the detriment of assets. And you can't keep on funding liabilities and leaving your assets to go down the drain. If we fix that in this country, we're going to experience a turnaround based on what is happening to the Nigerian economy. And so you can see that the governor is saying the electricity subsidy, if reduced, we're going to save 1.1 trillion naira. And that same 1.1 trillion naira, just an inch away from how much was spent in the first quarter of this year on refreshment for just 30 state governors of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at some other stories, but this time around, coming in from the agri sector. We're going on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be taking a look at what the farmers are telling Nigerians, what the farmers are also telling the federal government. These and many more are the conversations we're going to have when we come back on the short break. This is the Business Hour. Envision Nigeria reclaiming its position as a top cocoa producer in the world. Nigerian farmers see the current global cocoa price surge as a golden opportunity to boost the Nigerian economy. They call for strategic investments in production and processing, which could transform lives, creating jobs, and further increasing our foreign exchange earnings. Farmers urge the federal government to capitalize on global cocoa price surge. The strategic investment needed in the cocoa production, processing, and export. Because if we look at what is happening in the grand scheme of things, we'll see that the global cocoa market is really quite bullish. The price of cocoa is literally at its all-time high. A metric ton, the price of a metric ton also literally at its all-time high. And it tells us what is happening. And that is why we're seeing that the cocoa farmers is really telling the government that, dear federal government, it's high time you reposition and recalibrate your agri strategy as regards making sure that becomes one of the leading sectors in this country. Enough of the oil. Yes, it's good a thing we have the oil. But the world is gradually tilting away from that. But at no point in time is the world going to tilt away from the agri sector or from food. And that's why we're seeing that the farmers are urging the federal government that it is time that the federal government recalibrates its strategy in the agri sector. Strategic investments also needed in cocoa production, processing, and export. The potential to be able to aid economic diversification, create jobs, and increase earnings. The call for the government support, also financing, modern techniques and infrastructure, and also establishment of more cocoa processing plants to add value. We also need to make sure we address the supply challenges, because logistics is a major problem. Quality control is also a major problem. Access to market is also a major challenge in the agri sector. So all these issues currently bedeviling the supply chain of the cocoa, of the agro-allied product called cocoa. We need to make sure we fix that. And that's what the farmers that's what we were seeing, that the farmers are telling the government at this point in time. That because we have a golden opportunity. The global market price for cocoa is at its all-time high. The price keeps skyrocketing. It's becoming the next gold. And so if we can position ourselves, a few decades ago, we used to be one of the largest exporters of cocoa in the world. The southwestern region of this country. And right now, we've jettisoned that. We've put it aside just for the purpose of liquid gold. And the oil is looking like it's not even as profitable as it used to be. Because look at it, what you're going to know what really is the current oil, current price per barrel. And it's to tell you what is really going to be funding the Nigerian budget. Because if we have the price of oil below our oil benchmark, that means we have a deficit. What's going to be funding that? Who's going to be funding that deficit? Our oil benchmark is $79.6 per barrel. $79.6 per barrel. And if our oil benchmark is that, how on earth are we going to be funding our 2024 appropriation bill? That is why we're saying that the farmers are having conversations with the government regarding making sure we diversify our economy. Let's move on to some other stories, but this time coming in from the global market. The global food prices surged for 3 consecutive months in the month of May, especially ending in the month of May. We're seeing that the global food prices has been skyrocketing. Not just food inflation happening in this country. It's a global phenomenon. It's happening in the UK, happening in the US, happening in the Caribbean. Almost all countries is being affected by food inflation. And one of the major issues is the fact it all started from the war between Russia and Ukraine. Because Russia is a global powerhouse when it comes when we talk about wheat. And wheat is one thing that no agri sector in the world can do without. No country can do without. It's what we use for your bread. It's what we use for what so many fast food outlets make use of. And so, if immediately the supply chain of wheat got affected, food inflation started to be on the rise. The Food and Agricultural Organization reports a surge driven by higher cereal and dairy prices. It's also putting pressures on families worldwide. However, some commodities like sugar have seen a price drop due to favorable conditions in Brazil. The global food prices rose for the 3rd consecutive month in May. The Food and Agricultural Organization, that's the FOA, the price index is 120 points, up 0.9% from April, close to 1%. The cereal prices increased by 6.3% due to unfavorable crop condition. And it's also what we have happening between Russia and Ukraine, because Russia is one of the biggest powerhouses, and also Ukraine regarding wheat exports. And wheat is one of the major ingredients that is used for producing many of these cereals. And that's why we're seeing 6.3% increase in the price of cereals. Dairy prices are also increasing due to higher demand and reduced milk production. The only thing we're seeing that is dropping is the price of sugar. Sugar price index declined by 7.5% due to favorable harvest in Brazil. Vegetable oil prices also fell. It led to declines in palm oil prices. And that's why we're seeing all these things happening in the agri sector. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going on a quick break, and when we come back, we're going straight into the macroeconomic matters. Nigeria, our trade surplus surged to 6.5 trillion naira amidst rising export. And this is coming from the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics. When we come back from the short break, we're going to be addressing this issue and many others making the rounds in the world of business. This is the Business Hour.
From the views on the street
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents,
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people.
Welcome back to the Business Hour. Ladies and gentlemen, we're still talking about what stories making the rounds in the world of business. Let's go straight into some other stories. What is really happening regarding our trade surplus? It surged to 6.5 trillion naira. The National Bureau of Statistics reports a remarkable increase in the country's trade surplus, driven by robust exports. The economic resilience is a testament to Nigeria's growing influence in global markets. Trade surplus surged to 6.52 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2024. This is 79% increase from the previous quarter and the sixth consecutive quarter of positive trade balance. The total merchandise trade is 31.8 trillion naira, up 46.3% from the previous quarter. Export accounted for 60% of total trade. And it looks like we're gradually improving as regards exportation, because we've been talking about making sure the Nigerian economy is an exporting economy, not just an importing economy, because literally we import almost everything. And if we want to make sure our foreign exchange market is really, really vibrant and quite stable and something to write home about, then we should be looking at exporting some of our products. Finished product, not just raw materials. There's real value, there's much more value in finished product than the raw materials. That's why when you want to buy an ounce of gold in its raw state, it costs less than when you're buying a gold jewelry. So when you're buying a gold jewelry, it costs more than when you're buying gold in its raw state at the same quantity, the same kilogram. And that's why I was saying that it's much more valuable for you to export finished product than exporting raw materials. So we should move from exporting raw materials. So finishing our product, refining it, Whether it's our talent, don't export raw talent. Export refined talent. Be good at what you're doing. Then export it. Package your agro-allied products properly. Make sure it's up to standard, up to the global standard. Whether it's cocoa, whether it's your beans, rice, whatever it is we're exporting, especially in the agri sector, because we have one too many repatriated goods. Nigerians will sweat and export the agri product, and it's brought back because it's not meeting the country we're exporting it to. It's not meeting up with their standard. We have global practice, global best practice. And we should be able to make sure we meet up with those numbers when we're exporting our goods. So the crude oil export valued at 15.4 trillion naira, and non-oil exports contributed 3.6 trillion naira. Imports rose to 12.6 trillion naira also. Our top partners are the likes of China, India, US, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Most traded commodities is the motor spirit, which is our petroleum. Gas oil is also one of those. Wheat is also one of those. And sugar cane. Those are our most traded commodities. If you look at this, you see that it's only wheat and sugar cane that really got the largest share of the pie coming in from the agri sector. And that's why we've been talking about making sure that we even have enough to feed our people and then export the rest. Imagine how much we're going to be making in FX. That's why that sector needs to be heavily funded, because it's a fundamental sector. We need to go back to our farms. Make it much more appealing for the younger ones. Put in funding. Give tax reliefs to who you need to give tax reliefs to. We've seen that the government literally took out reliefs and tariffs. So they took out tariffs from agro-allied products coming into this country because of the current food inflation, 40.52%. So everything to make sure to bring down that food inflation is one thing that is very, very paramount to this current administration, because that is the major index, the macroeconomic index, that literally drives the inflation, the headline inflation of the entire Nigerian economy. If we can bring down food inflation, trust me, headline inflation is going to drop, and that is the way to go. Let's move on to some other story, but this time around, coming in from the ICT sector, data protection. The NIMC vows to protect Nigerians' data and steps up vetting of partners. Envision a safer digital environment where your personal data is secure. The National Identification Management Commission is stepping up efforts to protect citizens' data by implementing stringent vetting processes for partners. This initiative comes after several data breaches aiming to ensure your information is safe. The NIMC commits to stringent and stricter security vetting for partners. The aim is to protect citizens' data and prevent identity fraud. It has responded to reports of fraudulent platforms exploiting personal information. But the big question is, those who were involved in the past, were they brought to book? Because it's a criminal offense. Violating the personal data of Nigerians. Violators are to face sanctions. That's the new security protocols. So there are temporary suspension of bypass enrollment processes to be able to prevent abuse. The effort is to make sure the government upholds global best practices in digital identity management. And there's a comprehensive data protection law enacted in 2023. And that is why we're seeing that is coming from the NIMC, the Nigeria Identity Management Commission. Let's see what really the outcome of that is going to be. Hopefully, the data of Nigerians is going to be protected. Electricity production. The federal government has issued 95 licenses to boost electricity generation by 989 megawatts. This initiative aims to boost production capacity and reliability. It's moving the country closer to its energy targets, because the federal government issued 95 licenses to boost electricity generation. The target increase of 989 megawatts of electricity. The current generation is between 4,000 and 5,000 megawatts, and the aim is to reach 6,000 by December. The new licenses cover mini-grids and off-grid generation projects, investments in new power plants, and also transmission grid expansion. So there's a lot of capital projects coming in the power sector. But the most important thing, Nigerians will say, the cocoa nasi make we get light. That is what they always say. All this bureaucratic process, all these stories are making the rounds in the power sector, is that it should reflect on our light bulbs. How long can the average light bulb last in an average Nigerian home in 24 hours? I think that is the big question we should be asking ourselves. Recent addition includes 700 megawatts from Zungeru hydropower plant. And the measure is to increase legacy debt in the gas sector. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is the Business Hour on VOP TV. And we always do something because this is the voice of the people and your opinion matters. And so we're going straight into your opinions, getting what you've been talking about over the weekend. What are the stories making the rounds in the entertainment scene? What are the trending stories, especially stories around the economy, business, and finance? When we come back from the short break, we're going to be taking your opinions. Don't forget, this is the Business Hour.
From the views on the street
We go to bed empty hunger.
to the blaring horns of a hustling city, the loudest voices of the common man got a medium to be heard.
This particular administration, they were coming unprepared.
It's not a bad thing to renovate the president's lodge.
Through top-notch programming, unbiased reportage of news, sports, business, entertainment, and cultural documentaries, Voice of the People 90.3 FM became a symbol for 21st century media. And now, a new baby is born. Voice of the People Television, VOP TV, youthful, full of vigor and penchant for excellence in the continent's media space, exposing the wrongs, applauding the rights, dissecting the news without fear or favor, through factual and accurate stories and contents,
Corruption kills three things that makes a society.
representing the interests of the people and giving them a voice. Voice of the People TV is here to stay towards building a fair society. VOP TV, Voice of the People Television, truly a voice for the people. When your morning starts, make sure to look around for the right company to serve you everything you need to know about what's happening around you. That's why you need VOP this morning, because we will climb this far to give you a voice in what's going on, from news, review, politics and the economy, sports, and even entertainment. Join us weekdays 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. right here on VOP TV. VOP TV. Now you have more than a voice.
Welcome back to the Business Hour. Let's see what is happening. Let's take your opinions. What have you been talking about? Because this is the voice of the people, and your opinion matters. Your voice really matters on the business are. Let's see. Okay, before we take your opinions, I would love to show you something regarding the Nigerian banking sector. Let's take a look at what really is the lending rate right now in the Nigerian banking sector. Let's start from in no order it's arranged in alphabetical order. You can see the first is Access Bank. Obviously, A, C, and E is the first on our list. Access Bank, number one. Look at that. The prime lending rate is 22%. Maximum lending rate is 28.5%. Depending on what is happening, and you see what really is our NPR. Our NPR is 26.25%. And I've always told you that when you walk into the banking halls, right now that the interest rate is as high as 26.25%, you're going to get an interest rate that is higher than the current NPR, which is 28.50%. The reason why you're seeing the prime lending rate as the best, at least, no matter how magnanimous the banks wants to be, perhaps they have a massive interest in whatever it is they're giving you, the loans they're giving you, you're going to get it at 22%. But here you go, 28.5%. That is the normal rate you're going to be getting from Access Bank. The sectors that are covered as regards lending, agri, forestry, and manufacturing. Let's take a look at Citibank. Citibank is 21.50%. And here you go, 28% is the maximum lending rate. Agriculture is also their core area of focus. Sectors covered, agri, forestry, and manufacturing. Coronation Bank, 30%, prime lending rate, 30%, maximum lending rate. I told you about that some banks are going to giving you at 30%, and you're seeing it here. As a matter of fact, we even have a bank giving at 40%. But before we go into that, let's see what is really happening. Echo Bank is 26.75%. Theirs is even equivalent. The prime lending rate is literally equivalent. It's just 0.5% higher than what we have as regards the current NPR, which is our current interest rate, 26.25%. But theirs is 26.75% coming in from Echo Bank. Look at that. The maximum lending rate is 30%. All sectors is what sectors they are covering. Let's look at FBN Quest, 7%, that's for manufacturing. 30% maximum lending rate, agri, forestry, and manufacturing. That's their core, that's their area of focus. That is those sectors where they really focus on. Look at FCMB. FCMB has 22.50%. That's for the prime lending rate. And then we have 40%, whooping 40%. For the maximum lending rate, all sectors is what they really focus on. Fidelity Bank, 27%, just 1% higher than what we have as the current NPR regarding the prime lending rate. Maximum lending rate is 30%. Let's look at First Bank, all sectors as well. There you go. First Bank, 25%, 32% maximum lending rate. All sectors is the area of focus. FSDH and Bank, manufacturing, 9%. That they only have 9% for manufacturing sector, and it depends on the terms and conditions for the loan. So here you go. Their maximum lending rate is 43%, whopping 43%. As a matter of fact, this is the highest on our list here. Before we get to the next set of lists, let us see what is really happening. Global's Bank, 9 to 29%. We're not even done with the previous one. Let's take a look at the previous one so that before we come to the next one, it tells us what is happening. Global's Bank, you can see it over there. That is focuses all sectors for Global's Bank, and then 29% for that. Okay, let's take a look at Polaris Bank. Here you go. Polaris Bank. Okay, we're back to Global's Bank. It will be good for us to finish up with this particular list so that we see what is happening with Global's Bank, and we see how much is their lending rate for that of Global's Bank. 9 to 29%. There you go. 9 to 29%, their maximum lending rate. And it tells us what is really happening in this sector. Look at that. For all sectors, they're open to all sectors, investment for all sectors, lending for all sectors. GT Bank, manufacturing, 10%. That's the prime lending rate. And then the maximum lending rate is 24%, 2% lower than what we have as the current NPL. Perhaps they're trying to get a stable midpoint. Let's see what is happening to Keystone Bank. 36%, their prime lending rate. There you go. Optimus Bank, we have 35% prime lending rate. all sectors. Let's see what GT has. Agri sector, manufacturing, mining, and quarrying. That is quarry. Let's look at all the banks. Let's see what is really happening. You're going to do the prime lending rate, maximum lending rate, and all other sectors. Let's see what is really happening with all their banks so that we get a perspective as to what is really, how this current MPR literally affects every Nigerian. Especially businesses. See how high it is for you to get access to loans because of the current interest rate by CBN, 26.25%. Never lose track of that. See, Polaris Bank, 9% for some sectors, 32 to 35% is what you get as the maximum lending rate. See, we have Premium Trust Bank, 32 to 33% also, 28% for their prime lending rate, and then we have these for their maximum lending rate. Providence Bank is 25% and 30%. We have Rand M Bank, we have 24.75% and then 2.5%. Signature Bank is there, 32%, 35%. That's the interest for any loan you get from the bank, and the best you can get is 30%, 32%. Stanbic IBTC, 8 to 27%, depending on the terms and conditions. And then we have 50%. As a matter of fact, Stanbic IBTC has the highest maximum lending rate in this country as we speak, based on what we have here. And they're open to all sectors. Standard Chartered, 19%, 26%. Sterling has 29% and 37%. I think Stanbic IBTC is literally leading the pack. SunTrust Bank, 7 to 18%, and then 20 to 29%. Titan Trust Bank has 25 to 28.50%. That's the prime lending rate. And then the maximum lending rate is 25 to 36%. Let us look at UBA. What does UBA have? 28.5%. That's the prime lending rate. There you go. And then 32% for the maximum lending rate. Union Bank has 19.65% for the prime lending rate, and then 38%, 35% for the maximum lending rate. And it's all sectors, actually. All sectors. They're open to all sectors. Perhaps you want to get a loan from them. You can go there, go meet them, and get to pay back with this particular interest, as a matter of fact, depending on your moratorium and your terms and conditions for the loan. Let's see what Unity Bank has to offer as well. Oh, Union Bank. Okay, we've talked about Union Bank. Unity Bank, 9 to 30%. That's the prime lending rate. And then we have 38% is what you're going to be getting loans from Unity Bank based on the maximum lending rate. You're open to all sector investment. Look at that. Wema Bank is what we have, the penultimate bank we have on our list. 32.50%. There you go. And then 34.50% is the maximum lending rate. Let's look at Zenith Bank. Zenith Bank is the last on our list. 25.28%. That is their prime lending rate. And then 30% for their maximum lending rate. It tells us what is really happening in the banking sector. And we always talk about this, that it's not an easy time for a lot of entrepreneurs. Because many entrepreneurs right now are finding it difficult to be able to get access to loans. Why? Look at this. How many entrepreneurs in this current economy can pay back with this maximum lending rate? As a matter of fact, we even have a 50% from Stanbic IBTC. It tells us what is really happening. It's a difficult time and a difficult terrain for a lot of Nigerians and a lot of Nigerian entrepreneurs. How many of them can get access to loans? How many of them can pay back those loans at this particular rate? It tells us what the present predicament of the Nigerian business landscape is as we speak. My name is Frank Fagbo, and we've got no time for us to have all the conversations around the world of business. Many thanks for staying with us. You can catch me across all social media platforms at Fagbo Frank. Let's continue the conversation on your money, your business, and the economy. The sports show continues. You don't want to go anywhere because Kizzy K has got you covered. This is the voice of the people. Stay productive. Cheers.